I want to share with you a very humbling experience I had. And it was on the 5th of June that I was taken into hospital. My wife called the ambulance because I was experiencing what we thought was possibly a heart problem, in the sense that I had these chest pains that were going right across my chest. So it was something that I was becoming more and more concerned about, because you think when you've got chest pains, you might have a heart problem. So I didn't want to avoid not going to hospital. And so my wife called 999, and she explained what was happening to me at that particular moment. And along comes an ambulance. Don't like blue light ambulances coming to our home, but nevertheless, I just had no alternative at the time. The two ambulance ladies that came in, very, very nice, very helpful. Quick assessment, before they decide what to do with you. And in that assessment, they did an ECG, and that was all right. I do have AF, which is a heart condition where your heart will suddenly be beating at your normal speed and then speeding up to ridiculous amounts, 2 or 3 times that in a matter of just seconds. So that's something I've inherited, as it were, from having COVID many years ago. Now, but what was helpful was that these two ambulance ladies also did a little test by looking at or hearing what my lungs were doing, and in case there was something that was going on there rather than something that was related to my heart. And they discovered that there was a sort of crackling, as they used that term, in my lungs. So they thought it would be very good if I was to go to A&E and have an X-ray and have some blood tests. So we did. We went down there, and as I arrived, I was shocked. We all hear about the news that NHS and the hospitals are absolutely packed, jam-packed, and also not able to cope as they used to be able to. For one reason or another, whether it's over numbers from the people who are falling ill and needing cover, or there isn't enough doctors or nurses to actually cope with the numbers that they're having to deal with on a daily basis. Well, this was about 9 o'clock at the evening, and so one would think that, that hospitals might be a little bit easier and things are being dealt with as normal. But when I walked, well, actually, I didn't walk in. I was taken in by the ambulance ladies, and I was sitting down on a wheelchair, and along the corridors, literally, bed after bed after bed were in the corridors, not in the actual sort of rooms that you would normally be dealt with in A&E, because they were already packed. And then taken from there, I was put into what the normal waiting room is for those who are attending A&E, and perhaps were taken there by themselves or their wives or spouses or friends and family. And that was absolutely chock-a-block. And so I was just thinking, wow, this is an unusual one. Now, I have visited A&E a few times in my life, especially suffering from COVID as I did, and subsequent sort of ailments that followed that. But also doing football and playing football, I've been there many times with injuries. So I am used to the numbers and the times that you have to wait. And usually you would say in those days, I'm talking about 2 or 3 years ago, you might have to wait 4 hours, 5 hours. But last night, but on this particular occasion, I had to wait 7 hours before I even saw a nurse, and this is not a doctor. And the nurses were so overwhelmed with what was happening that particular night, because there was too many patients to deal with. There were people everywhere, as I say, and sometimes they were making an announcement, say, which I'd never heard before, well, do you know what? Please, if you're not a patient, please stand up and leave the seats for the patients, because there are patients that need to be able to be sitting down. And when you looked around, as I did, some of the patients were in such bad shape. It shamed me to think that I was there with such just a fairly mild, as it were, ailment. And these people that I was watching, I felt so sorry for. The compassion that came to me for these people was something I hadn't experienced, and it was starting to rub off onto the other patients. Now, why am I saying this? Because of the long wait. Normally when you're in A&E or in a waiting room, you pretty much keep yourself to yourself. You might look at each other occasionally and sort of put your head down. But what started to develop as we realized that we weren't going to be seen that soon, and we were starting to talk to each other, and also observe from each other different people's situation. For example, there was one young girl, she probably was about 21 years of age. She was there with her father and her boyfriend, and she was getting worse and worse. She was almost passing out. She was actually, to the extent that, something had to happen quickly, or this young girl was going to be either in serious trouble or could pass away. It looked that bad. And what came to mind to me as a Christian and a believer in miracles, was to pray for her. I did this silently, of course, and I said, Lord, just save her life. Please don't let her die, and let her live in Jesus' name. It's the usual prayer. And so that was that. And then somebody else was struggling to walk across when they were called to go in to see the nurses to be assessed. And so you get up and help. It's the sort of thing, you have to have a little bit of courage, because you might seem like an oddball. Well, I am an oddball anyway, I don't mind admitting that. So I just helped this lady, middle-aged lady, to get out of her seat. And I could see that she wasn't going to make it to where the nurses were stationed, so I helped her. And then other people started to take notice and help others. It was really lovely, really, in a way. There was one lady, an elderly lady, and she was really not in good shape. And for some reason, she'd recognized me. She said, "Are you Howard from Revelation TV?" I said, yes, yeah. And interestingly, other people were sort of listening to this sort of conversation, because she was quite open about Revelation TV. And she eventually came, and she was wheelchaired. She asked to be wheelchaired next to me in one of the aisles. And so I was talking with her, and I could see, that she was struggling. And I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Well, I've had bowel cancer, and not doing too good right now." And she had like a bowl to be sick in, and I was, we were having a bit of a conversation, and all of a sudden she threw up, and it just went everywhere. It went all over her. Again, you do the necessary, don't you? You just do it. You jump into the action and wipe her down, help her. And I could see some of the other patients were also concerned, and they were handing me baby wipes and things like that, and and then running to the toilet, getting rid of the sick from the bowl. Each one of us was starting to respond to the situation where people needed each other, because the nurses were so busy. The doctors weren't even there. Apparently, it got to such a bad situation that the doctors actually said, the doctors had been called to resus. That's where patients need to be resuscitated. And the nurses were making this announcement saying, "I'm sorry, you won't be able to see a doctor for 7 hours." And we'd already been there 6 or 7 hours anyway, because of the rate of people that were coming in that particular night, and not being able to survive without the doctors resuscitating them. So it was a life and death situation. So we, as it were not as important, it's not as urgent. So we started to, help each other. And so we were talking about, well, we may as well go home. Because we've been here 6 or 7 hours already, and if there's not another doctor available for the next 7 hours, we may as well go home. Fortunately, we were able to help each other. Well, there was one gentleman I can remember sitting near us, and he was a dear soul. He was 88 years of age, 10 years older than me. And he was in quite a nervous state, because he was on his own. His wife was at home. And between us, we managed to get him some food and a drink and sort him out and comfort him and calm him down. And in the end, we got a taxi for him. And I saw this camaraderie between all the patients. It was like we turned into second helpers for the NHS. And the nurses were just amazing as well. you know. Couldn't say anything for the doctors because they were already busy saving lives. So why am I mentioning all of this? Well, I just wanted to say that, you know, when you, in life, you know, you think of opportunities, praying for people, whether it's verbally in the open, you know, sometimes that's a bit difficult, but you can do it privately. And in the end, I remember the young lady I was just mentioning, who's about 21 years of age, who was in really bad shape. I saw her walk out the hospital, far better condition than when she was when I was praying for her, because it was something which I could see that, you know, I thank God for. And that's all. I just want to share that. This elderly gentleman that I was saying, you know, he was 88 years of age, he was becoming very nervous and panicking a little bit towards the end. And we said we'd get a cab for him, as I thought was the best way to get him home, because it was unexpected that we had to leave so at that hour, and I think it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And Peter, bless his heart, you know, he was saying to me, as I said, well, look, don't worry, Peter, we're going to get you outside. We'll take you to where the cab is. He was beginning to panic because he said, I just don't handle these things very well, you know. So I said, well, I'll stay with you till the cab comes. He said, well, please stay with me till then. I just, and I did. So we stayed with him. And then Leslie showed up because I'd called her earlier to come and pick me up. And she waited very patiently as well. So all in all, I just want to say the whole experience was very humbling, and it really puts us in our place, you know, when we think that we're suffering and yet there are others. So it reminded me really of the days of mercy ships when we used to travel to poorer countries, particularly like Dominican Republic, where we were on the borders of Haiti, and we were meeting the needs there of the poor, the needy, and those who were very ill as well, and how we were able to help. There's nothing better and more, if you like, satisfying, is to be, in practical ways, being able to help people, and also through prayer. But I have to say that it's sort of like was really nice seeing people in the waiting room, as it were, all come together, and sort of that camaraderie spilt over into love and caring for each other, knowing that we weren't going to be seen, as it were, by the nursing staff. And so that, to me, is very important. It reminds me of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which is very famous, which reads, "If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal." And as a drummer, I know what that sounds like. "If you have a gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if you have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I or you are nothing." Thank you for listening.